I didn't realize it was spring break. Yeah.
Oh, that's why we're slim picking.
Yeah, so 42 years ago today, I delivered my third child. And it was, and I've said this before, but I'll say it again for anyone who hasn't. So my son, Craig, was born Sunday morning on General Conference, Easter Sunday, Sesquicentennial, 150th anniversary, and it, what else? There was something else. The 150th, and Christ's birthday. So April 6th. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting day. So, yeah, so I can't believe how time flies. All right, ladies, I've done this Healing of America class before. I think this is probably the at least third or fourth time I've taught it, but we have new faces, new ladies. And Dr. Kimber always called this one the Unhinging of America, and that's why we put it on here. The first time I took this class 12 years ago, Chris Kimball was teaching it, and it was actually 12 years ago in January. And she was teaching it, and it was the day where we would read it and fill in the blank and fill it in cursive, and you can do that. So what we're doing is we are starting the Healing of America series. This is book 3. And it's called The Attacks on the Charter of Freedom. And I remember when, and you can get these books on the Moms for America website. I think they're about $12 or $14, I'm not sure. And when you go through, they're fill in the blank, read it and fill in the blank, and write in cursive because you have an 8 times retention of memory if you write in cursive. So, yeah. There's a study done, and Skousen taught that as well, that cursive writing, you can remember. It's very interesting.
Also, Colette, the answers are in the back of the book.
The answers, the key is in the back, so you can fill it in. So you're not going, oh, what do I do? Yeah, the answers are in the back. And I suggest that, go back what we do today and read, because it's really... The first time when we read and we filled in the blank, and I was so mad because we have been so deceived. The last 125 years, really, we have been so deceived, and we grew up with indoctrination, and you will see that today. So, we're going to talk about the unhinging of America. And when you think of a hinge, I've got a picture of a door. And you can see it's damaged, and the hinges have come apart. And you can see there was 4 hinges, and so to try to pass through on this door would be a little difficult. You'd probably have to really manipulate it. Depending on how heavy the door is, you may not even be able to pass through. And so you look at this, and this is what has happened to America. We're unhinged. We have become unhinged. And this book has 4 sections. And the 4 sections talk about the unhinging of what has happened and where we're at. And to be honest with you, as we go through this, our current day is completely relevant because we are really, the door is like falling off. At this point, it's pretty scary. So, we're going to talk about the 4 hinges that have come unhinged and the antichrists that have caused this. And when the first time I learned about this and the antichrists, you go, oh, this person could be an antichrist. But when you understand what antichrists are, antichrists actually change an ideology, a belief system. They change the society. So there's lots of people. I still think there's a good chance that Obama is an antichrist, but he hasn't really changed much. He's part of the change of the antichrists that have got us here. So the first one is, and I should have made these bigger, an educated citizenry. This is what we're going to talk about today. And we've got 2 antichrists that have changed our belief system. We've got Horace Mann, and the thing that's incredible about this is they've got schools named after him. They've got streets named after him. They laud him and hail him. And then we have John Dewey.
Can you tell me about more the Horace Man?
We're going to. That's what
Okay,
today's
all right.
study is going to be.
Because I know Dewey, but
Yeah, Horace Mann and John Dewey, we're going to learn all about these men. The next one is a moral and an ethical society. And the Antichrist is Sigmund Freud.
EUD.
Okay, I got it right. Perfect. Okay, and then we have a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And our Antichrist is Karl Marx. Okay, and we're not learning all this today. This is week 1. This will be the second class. This will be the third class. And then the fourth class is a light to the world. And that is, okay, Charles Darwin and Maynard Keynes.
Oh, I had him number 5, so he's along with number 4. So.
And Maynard Keynes is on the Keynesian, trying to change the money system. So these will be who we are learning in this book and what they have done over, well, what has been implemented in the last 125 years. To be honest with you, it goes back even shortly after the Founding Fathers. You have to have, you know, Satan attacking the plans. So we know
Wasn't
that.
Karl Marx, his stuff coming out during when Joseph Smith was,
Okay.
it was during that time, I think.
So was Horace Mann, and we'll talk about that. It's been a long time going. So
Darwin was born at the same time.
yeah,
Joseph was too.
yeah, all these antichrists that helped set things up and put into place since 1900. You know, these people all in through the 1800s, starting around 1830. What was significant about 1830?
The church was organized.
That's right, Joseph Smith. And from 1830 on up to 1900, some of these people had already died, but had implemented and started getting a growth of the teaching. Okay, so you know the unhinging, and it takes time. And the thing about a progressive is they don't do it in a fast way. They do it slow and methodical. Now, we have seen, since Obama, them speed things up again. And this happened, the progressives hit in the early 1900s, and the people were still grounded in the Constitution, and it didn't work, and they shut it down, okay? But the people are not grounded in the Constitution anymore. And so the unhinging, all the work that has been going on now, the people are accepting, and they don't understand the principles, and therefore they don't fight against this. That's why we hold these classes, is so we can learn the principles, so we can help our families and spread the word. That's why Moms for America, being a national organization, it's taken a while. I mean, they've been going for at least 10 years, and now it's finally, after all this time, getting some momentum. It takes time. You can't. The door gets wobbly. The hinges get wobbly. It doesn't fall off quickly. It takes time, and that's where we're at. Is we're to the point where it's ready to fall off. So we know that in the 60s, the universities were being attacked heavily with progressivism and hippies, so forth, and this was a success formula for the left, is going after young people. And now we can see they're going after our infants. Look at Ron DeSantis last week. Everybody had a fit because he wrote a bill that said you could no longer teach sex to kindergartners, first grade, second grades, and third graders, and transgenderism and homosexuality. I mean, they're going after our children. Do you remember when Pam Openshaw came to us, about half a dozen years ago? And she told us that the UN, their agenda was to teach masturbation to kindergartners, to start expressing their sexualization and so that they can start manipulating them in any way and every way they can. So this has been going on for some time. Again, it takes a while for the hinge to get loose and squeaky and start to fall off.
Well,
So-
to think about when Hitler, I mean, it was through Hitler, they were getting the kindergarten. Let's get kinder kids in here.
Yes.
Because then we can teach them when they're young and we can work their minds.
Hitler's
out.
youth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember we taught that one class about Hitler's youth? And how he would bring them over on Sundays and they would run. And he used the Sabbath. And he'd have big parties for the kids to sway them towards Hitler. So, yeah. Yes, indeed. And if you can corrupt the children, you've got the society.
Well, if you've ever taught kids, until a child goes to school, mom knows everything. But once they go to school, the teacher knows everything.
Yeah.
So I just tell my kids, I'm a mom and a teacher, so I know everything.
Absolutely. Okay, so, and then we have a moral and ethical society. You know, our Constitution was made for a moral and religious people. And that's why they don't want morality taught. In fact, I remember when I was in second grade, we still used to say prayer in school. It shows you how old I am. But I was born in 56. They took prayer out of school in 1963. And I remember when that happened. That was from the Supreme Court. So if you remove morality, it can help corrupt the people. And the Antichrist that came in, Sigmund Freud, you know, it's the psychology of things, and we've got to change their thought processes. So the Founding Fathers would be shocked and dismayed to learn that their religion and morality would be removed from our society. And our Sacred Bill of Rights were designed to protect religious beliefs. And look at, they stood in conference and said, you know, our religion is under attack. We've known that for a long time. There are people who don't know that, but we've been studying these things and we know. I mean, they've been killing Coptic Christians over in the Middle East, and we know that they're trying to destroy Christianity. So a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Number 3. And Karl Marx, you know, of course, Marxism, we've got to have fairness. We've got to take away people's freedoms, and we've got to tell them what to do, because we know what's better. And the Constitution created an effective balance of power. And it divided power vertically and horizontally. And we've talked about that before, how it works with Moses setting up tens, 50s, hundreds, thousands, and did the vertical. So, and then the horizontal is the legislature. You know, we have the judicial, the legislature, and the executive order, and that's the horizontal. So, and it works, but they don't want it to work, and so, you know, they try to destroy it at every turn. Today, these checks and balances have not only been weakened, the hinge, weakened, but in many cases totally removed. And this has allowed power to become centralized and too often abuse the people. This hinge is not only loose, but it's twisted out of shape. Okay? And then a light of the world, Darwin and Maynard Keynes. Of course, Darwin has to take away, you know, your belief in a God. I mean, we have Big Bang Theory, or we have lizards turning into humans. And I always wondered, if we have, you know, apes turning into human, why isn't it still happening? Why did it stop? You know, so it's ridiculous. And Keynes, they have to go in and change the money system and control what people do with their lives and their livelihoods. And so the Monroe Doctrine talked about America would not meddle in the affairs with other countries. And that's exactly where we're at. We've got away from the Monroe Doctrine, and the founders committed to coordination and cooperation, but not consolidation of power. And World War II politicians have been playing fast and loose in the defense of the nation. And we're so ingrained in getting involved in other people's countries that's not what Heavenly Father wanted. So we have a repair job to do. We need to get these hinges. See, what we want is to have a nice, welcoming door that opens up to the people and a beautiful structure. And when I was reading through this, it kept reminding me, oh my gosh, do you remember in conference 2 years ago, they changed our emblem the hinge point with the open door, open and welcoming. And I went, oh my gosh. So I had to print that. Our Savior is at the door welcoming us in. But we've got to get out of this disrepair. We have to heal our country. And the only way to do that is to learn these principles and practice them. So I will keep that one right there.
Yeah.
All right, let's get started. The attack on the founders' educational dream, because we are going to talk about education today. And the founders emphasized that the key to survival of the American success formula was universal education. And you think about everything that's going on right now, seems like education is at the forefront of everything. And you can't even walk into a meeting now, and people are trying to say stuff and they shut them down and they throw them out and they arrest them. You know, people are losing their voice, and they're using education to take our children. And I was listening this morning to Dan Bongino, and he was saying, you know, what is the fascination with the children? And I'm like, well, we know. I wanted to call and say, it's, you know, to destroy the family. You destroy the children, you destroy the fabric of our society. And you can change in one generation a society if you've destroyed the family or destroyed the children. So, the founders knew that they had to make a tremendous breakthrough in human progress by setting up the first free people in modern times. They also knew that the great blessing would be lost unless Americans were educated from generation to generation. So, in France, back in the 1600s, in the 1700s, John Adams went to France, and there was about 24 million people in 1778, and 500,000 could read and write. 23.5 million people could not read or write. So you think about that. Can you control the people if they don't even know how to read and write and understand what their laws are? All you have to be told is this is the law, and you go, okay. And even if it wasn't the law, if you're told that that's the law, you know, you can really control people. And I think this is really what they're trying to do, is they're trying to dumb down the society, not teach our founding principles, take away cursive writing, because if you look at our documents, I've got back here the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence written in script, and if you can't cursive write, how do you read it? You can't. So really, have they taken away that ability to read? Somewhat, a little bit.
What did they do with the slaves? They didn't want.
Oh no!
They were,
slaves could not read or write because they would revolt. And see, what I'm trying to remember, what year, wasn't it 14 or 16 something, where they finally published the Bible?
It was in the 1400s.
1411 or something like that?
It was probably more like...
Was it Martin Luther?
No, it was Gutenberg.
Gutenberg.
Johann Gutenberg. I just did that report for Pamela.
Okay, yeah.
And it opened up a whole world because...
Yes.
Not just the Bible, but because the religious people were controlling everything and
Absolutely.
interpreting. And so it opened up a whole world for people.
So you could have a corrupt minister or a priest that could interpret things the way he wanted to interpret it. But now you get more eyes on it, looking at it and going, whoa, wait a minute, that's not what it says. You know, so reading was really crucial. Education was incredibly crucial. And so when you think about 2% were literate in France in 1778, and think about how you can just got your thumb on everything they do, because they didn't know any different. So, yeah. And
That might be why the states, they've left the border open, because so many coming in can't read.
yeah, I would imagine that's true too. Yeah. So I don't know how literate these illegal aliens are. Probably a lot. I mean, we have illiteracy right here in the United States of America. So The founders rejected the European class, that there should be only the elite and upper class that could read or write. So they said, this is ridiculous. And so the one thing that was really amazing is, when they came over here in the 1600s and they landed in Plymouth Rock, there was a big influx of people getting education that came here to America and getting lots of education. So when America really was started, they were very fluent in multiple languages. They learned, they were proficient in classics, Roman, English, Greek history, theorems of Euclid, trigonometry, algebra, decimal fractions, geometrical proportions, and conic sections. That was becoming commonplace because they felt that it was very important to get higher education. So this is one of the reasons why America did so well, is because they were an educated society. And you think of France, and I mean how easily France could have been taken over by people who didn't read or write. I think of Joan of Arc, and I don't think that little girl could read or write. I'm quite sure she didn't, because most of the people in that country did not read or write. But you look at Christopher Columbus, and he did. He was a map maker and a map reader, so and what he did. So the miracles that happened, even just with those people, one could and one couldn't. God used them in great ways. Yeah.
Yesterday, Ben Shapiro talked about, they have a study, 5 hours of TV, because they don't.
Who has 5 hours of TV?
Children? The people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I was just talking about, it's they don't have any TV or computers.
Oh, yeah.
So what do we have to do? Okay, let's do something, let's, and now, we have lots of internet, and we don't, I'm not gonna read a book, I wanna watch TV. Yeah. So.
Well, it's so funny because every Sunday I get this little, you have had this many hours on your phone. I know, you were down 3 hours this week. I must not have listened to many podcasts or something. But really, other than searching for things, talking on the phone, or I listen to a lot. I'm listening to the Come Follow Me from two to three different, speakers, podcasts, and I listen to Dan Bongino, and so, So we do use those devices, totally. And then I sit down and eat in front of the TV. And I have my tucker, and I have some of my favorite shows. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, I believe that. I believe that. I think that's probably on the low end.
Yeah.
I really do. I'll bet you there's probably 7 to 10 hours of TV viewing in a lot of homes. So, yeah.
Well, before they had the TV, but in the late 19th century, early 20th century, they didn't have the TV, and so you had your children, if they wanted to have something enjoyable, they would read. And what were they reading then? Not Playboy.
No,
they were reading the classics.
The classics
and their
and the Bible.
vocabulary, and their vocabulary was greater than my vocabulary.
Oh, yes.
These are kids.
Absolutely. Yep. And so, you think about these Puritan leaders that came here, and they're so knowledgeable. And it went on in the 1700s here in America. It was 98.2% literacy. Yes. They read their Bibles, they read the classics. I'm sure William Shakespeare, they were very proficient and very knowledgeable.
And then also the books.
Yep, that's what I'm just going to go to. So in New England, there gradually influential writings came on the scene. The New England Primer and Noah's Webster books, and they sold 100 million copies. So you think about that at that time. Wow, 100 million copies. But in 1836, William Holmes McGuffey, and he began his McGuffey readers. And so I had to buy me a set of the McGuffey readers. And this is the primer up through 6th grade. And if you look at it and you open them up, you're gonna go, whoa. You've heard of, you hear, oh, he only had a 6th grade education. That's the equivalency of a high school graduate. And they say, oh, well, he had an 8th grade education. That's the equivalency of a college graduate. Not today. No. It's been dumbed down. And the McGuffey books, they had basics in reading, writing, arithmetic, oral and written communication, with the emphasis on vocabulary and spelling, literature, music, art forms, and nature study, basics in history and American history, including geography, basics in civics, American system of constitutional government, hygiene, physical and mental basics, and basics in community ethic, emphasis on respect for one's elders. And the McGuffeys also placed a strong significance on spiritual values with mandates of morality, qualities needed to develop sound character, frequent references to the 10 Commandments, the Golden Rule, and popular Bible studies. That was the basics. And are we seeing our children being taught any of this? Absolutely not.
And in Colette's and our era, we remember the Lord's Prayer we said every day in school. So.
And I also remember that most of your classes, when they gave the rules in your class, most of them says it's the golden rule.
The Golden Rule,
I don't think you
absolutely.
could say the golden rule in class now. I mean, you could probably be banned if you, as a teacher. You don't talk about that.
Oh, no. It is banned. It actually is. And these readers became national bestsellers. And by the turn of the century, every child in America was studying the McGuffey readers. Eventually, there were over 120 million copies in print. And this was unmatched by any other publication except for the Bible and Webster's Dictionary. And it was important. These were, parents and community leaders were expected, both the teacher and the text, to drill into the students the necessity of being trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. And these principles not only became incorporated in the laws, of the Boy Scouts, which now is gone, but likewise were included in the routine disciplines of every little red schoolhouse across the nation. The first cycle of education was also laid great stress on the system to improve and perpetuate the American economic and the political system. So, if you remember, we talked, and some of you who are new, Alexis de Tocqueville came to America. He was from France, and he came in 1831, and he wanted to find out what was so great about America. Because, America was the rising star around the world now. I mean, you have literate people, you have good people who are living the Golden Rule and the commandments and so forth. So he thought, well, he's got to go check this out, And he was so impressed with what he saw, he stayed for 2 years. And then he went back to France and he wrote his famous 2-volume work entitled Democracy in America. He said, it cannot be doubted that in the United States, the instruction of the people powerfully contributes to the supports of the democratic republic, and such must always be the case. I believe where the instruction which enlightens the understanding is not separated from the moral education. So I remember, though, I taught another thing on Alexis de Tocqueville, and he says, the reason why America is great because it is good. And he came here and he says, well, where are your prisons? And they're going, what prisons? We didn't have prison systems because America was good. They were a good people that really, you always get some bad people, but for the most part, you had good people that lived and took care of themselves. They took care of their neighbor. We were a righteous country. And he was absolutely astounded. And he would talk to different Americans and interview them. And he says, if you question him respecting his own country, he will inform you what his rights are, and by means he exercised them. Now this is his words. You will find that he is familiar with the mechanisms of the law. The American learns to know the laws by participating in the act of legislation. The great work of society is ever going on before his eyes, and as it were, under the hands in the United States politics are the end and the aim of education. So the thing that's great about our country is, you know, it is a representative government. And just like Helena is a delegate and your husband is now the chair, the citizenry is in there helping to participate in what's going to go on in the politics. So you've got over in France, you've got a king, a monarchy, and they tell you what to do, and they have no participation. But here in America we did. And that's another reason why we had such great knowledge. The people were involved, and they read the Constitution, they understood the Constitution. People would take turns doing their share of spreading the news, spreading the word, getting involved, and we were a good country. But we've got some bad people that want to take that down. We'll get there soon. All right, the world began to look to America for all the best and greatest opportunities. Students from countries everywhere came to America to learn the leading edge information that the country had to offer. In fact, so many people came to America for their education that many nations were fearful of what was called brain drain. Immigration was indeed the sign of the times. And so that was a good thing, because if they come here and they learn our stuff, they can go back and help their own people. But we've got all these people that are coming through the border that I think the only reason why they're looking for them is they can pick crops, and you know what I'm saying? I don't think they look at them that they're going to come here and contribute. They want not slave labor, but they want labor. Yeah. So anyway, there is some cycles that began with the education. So we're going to talk about the second cycle, and it begins. Now let us look at the attack that was made against the ideology of the founders. The attack was primarily directed against the universal religious precepts which the founders felt were self-evident truths, and came with two famous educators who had lost their way. Okay, so we looked at Horace Mann. He was born in 1796, and he died in 1859. And he started this cycle of education to emerge around 1847, and it was experimental or exploratory implementation of many concepts and policies which had been rejected by the founding fathers because they were not considered sound. And the same time McGuffey came out with his readers, Horace Mann came out with his concepts of moral education. Okay, his concepts were: children should no longer be held responsible for their good natural instincts of behavior, but were to be looked upon as innately good. So, okay, you go, well, that doesn't sound that bad, but you got to really earn your way to become good or great. You can't just innately be good, so that was his first downside. The second one was an elite educational establishment was organized to save our society through their manipulated opinions on how education should be administered. 3, mankind was to be the measure of all things, not God. And 4, children were now to be taught that there were no absolute values or right and wrong, that there is one decision, always based on particular situations at that time. And we are seeing this right now in Isaiah's prophecy that talks about good shall be bad and bad shall be good. That's exactly what this is. And do you guys have your books open?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to go to letter D, Horace Mann, further stated? You want to read that, Kathy?
Sure. What the church has been for medieval man, the public school must become for a democratic and rational man. God will be replaced by the concept of the public good. The common schools shall create a more far-seeing intelligence and a pure morality than has ever existed among communities of men.
Yeah, and I mean, isn't that something?
It kind of sounds like communism.
It sounds exactly like communism. And Horace Mann continued to promote his educational philosophies and convince many parents that their children had a right to education. What does that sound like? Does it sound like today? You have a right to health care. You have nobody has a right. We have the Bill of Rights that we received from our founding fathers. But other than that, when you start in saying you have this right, now you're telling people they have to do something. And that is against a free society. Okay, and the conflicts between the founding fathers' original principles of religion and morality and the experiments being promoted by Horace Mann began to peak around the turn of the century in the early 1900s. The result was emergence of a new and sinister philosophy designed to challenge America's very moorings. So this is called a philosophy for a new world order. What do we hear today? This new world. Every time they want to shift the people, it's a new world order. Well, this was in 1900, a new world order, and it was called secular humanism. Now, at this point, Horace Mann has already died now, but his message has not, and it takes hold. And in the beginning of the humanist movement represented something which the founders admired. It started out as a Christian movement. Do you remember when we talked about years ago about when they landed in Plymouth and they practiced Christian communism? But it didn't work because everybody wanted, you do it, well, you do it, well, you do it. Well, nobody did it, and they all died because they starved to death. Because nobody dug in, and plus it was everybody in the pot. Nobody owned anything, and so nobody had the incentive to work hard and build something up. And so the founding fathers thought that sounded good, but yeah, no.
Well, just think about growing up. I mean, we grew up on a little bit of land, and there's 6 kids, and okay, you guys go out and hoe the garden. You've got this row, this row. None of us wanted to hoe it. It wasn't. I mean, it was Dad's garden, and so you can extend that. If it's not yours, my kids work really hard now on their own properties, but they were lazy as all get out on my property.
Oh yeah, and I agree with you 100%. When you have that ownership, you have that pride of taking care of it. Either that, or it shows your character. If you let it go, then then you're a schlub. But no, pride of ownership means everything. Because it wasn't Bradford, I think the group Bradford, and then when they said, okay, let's give everybody their own land, and when they gave everybody their own land, people tilled it and took care of it and grew stuff, and that was theirs. You go and you do your own land, and then now you can barter, you can exchange, now you have the free enterprise, but you had free agency to do it. You weren't saying, this is the group and everybody chip in, and then nobody would want to because it was the collective. And that's the problem with communism and socialism is it's a collective and nobody really has the incentive to work. You might get a few, but not many. So, all right. The humanists emphasize the need to promote science, better architecture, better homes, better human relations, development of the arts. The version of humanism spread to America and was enthusiastically embraced, but then they realized that it was shifting. It wasn't learning how to do beautiful structures and taking care of your home. It was more of a communistic. So the secular humanist teaches there is no creator, there are no inalienable rights, there are no fixed standards of morality. There is no divine purpose to life. Man has no soul. Man has no responsibility to any supreme being for the way he treats his fellow man. There is no future life, and there is no divine judgment.
So who's doing this?
This is the secular humanists. the Horace Mann teachings.
Oh, still? Okay.
Yeah, we haven't got to John Dewey yet.
Okay.
These are the teachings that formulated from Horace Mann.
You know, and he's in the 1700s, and so.
He born in 1796 and died in
Yeah,
18.
yeah, so, now
1859.
it's not that bad, but like 200 years ago, it's like out of the
Oh yeah,
it's,
yeah.
but now it's like half of the country's, that's okay.
They don't understand because they haven't been taught. And, you know, we've had a society that's been a free society, and so they're used to it. But they don't see what's creeping in the back door, and the broken hinge, and the creaky hinge, and what it's going to take. And, you know, we're going to see food shortages coming up here soon, and people are going to go, whoa, where's this coming from? You know? And they don't even understand. They don't see it. So, yeah, it's kind of crazy, isn't
I
it?
have a question. Is
Yes.
that symbol, their symbol? Where's that symbol?
That's the
from?
humanist symbol. Yeah. Yep. So in France during the 1700s, secular humanism was not only very depressing, but it became extremely dangerous. And the people revolted against it. And they tried to make atheism the national religion of France. And the people said, no, 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 we don't want this. And they got Napoleon to restore order. Secular humanism was far less apparent during the 1800s. But you think about what was happening in the 1800s. People were living with the Bible, the Golden Rule, and, you know, the Ten Commandments, and love thy neighbor as thyself. And so it wasn't prevalent, but we were being spoon-fed at that time, little antichrists putting in their stuff. And of course, Satan works and finds the decay, and they gravitate to one another. You know, it's interesting. My sister-in-law, my niece, was having problems at school with kids and drugs, and so moved them. And immediately they find the kids and drugs. It's like, you know, they just gravitate to each other, and you move them again, and you find them. So they find each other. You try to sometimes it helps to move them, but it's crazy. They find each other. And so in America, powerful groups espousing secular humanistic philosophies began to demand significant changes and eventually infiltrated most educational circles. And this is what's frustrating is, and you know, this happens in the early 1900s, and I'm like, can't you see what's going on? You know, we can see it, but you know, what was happening is they were not teaching, they stopped teaching the founding principles.
My mother said she was taught civics when she was a girl. But like you said, I was never taught.
Yeah.
We were taught social studies. Social.
Social. Well, that's what it is socialism. Social. And it's that we're all going to have a good time and nobody's bad. Those are the social constructs that decay away from principles. And so, in this, the first group called themselves populists and demanded that the federal government use income taxes to confiscate some of the property of the rich and redistribute it among the lower economic classes. Now that happened in the early 1900s, and the people got upset, and it kind of died down. But the income taxes stuck around. 1913, Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson implemented the income tax. Did you know until 1913 there had never been an income tax? And it was supposed to be temporary. It was supposed to pay for World War I, and then they were supposed to remove
And
it.
it was supposed to be 3% of the top earners. So it wasn't supposed to affect
Yep.
the normal people.
And not only did they not remove it, but kept it in there, and look what's going on today. And Trump came in and lowered our taxes. Biden's raising them, and if he's not raising the taxes, the inflation is killing us. That's a tax. So they're taking our money.
Plus, I was going to say, plus they want to destroy the money system again.
Absolutely.
Change it.
Yeah. So the second group consisted of wealthy industrial and financial leaders who wanted the federal government under their influence to take a more forceful role in regulating the economy and curtailing competition. And I see that and I go, oh, yeah, AOC. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, you know. We got to get rid of competition. That's what made America great. You know, do you not see this? No, she doesn't, because she wasn't taught it. That's why she doesn't see it. So anyway, that was Obama's playbook, and it really started kicking in big time with Obama. We've got to redistribute wealth. He'd walk around and tell the people that, and they'd go, oh, okay. You know, I mean, at least they had the decency to hide it, you know, not come out and say the words with, you know, Bush or I don't remember Carter. I was young, so. But anyway, so the third group was made up of the economists and political leaders who were intrigued by the theories of socialism. They called for government ownership or control of the major means of production and distribution. And we really don't have that right now. When Obama came in and bailed out, was it GM? Bailed out GM, and the government owned it for a while, but GM did pay it back and it was released. So we are not in full socialism yet because we do not control the means, but they're doing everything they can to put their thumb on the people who do have businesses and so forth with OSHA and other, they're controlling. See, Trump came in and deregulated, and the day he went out, Biden went back in, wrote off everything he did, and look at us 1 year later. That just shows you the good that Trump did. It really does. So, the fourth group was a group of leading intellectuals who rejected the spiritual and moral foundation of the American formula and wanted to eliminate it from our education. Now we're talking the secular humanists here. So, founding fathers had pronounced all of these ideas a failure formula and warned that such theories were destructive to the American system that they set up. And we are right in the thick of it right now. We really are socialists. All right, let's talk about another Antichrist, John Dewey. And he was the first president of the American Humanist Association. And he signed the Humanist Manifesto, and its principles were atheism, evolution, society-based values, immorality, the acceptability of euthanasia, and suicide. Yeah. Pretty scary stuff. So that's why they don't care about abortion, or, you know, life-term abortion, or late-term abortion, because they believe in suicide or euthanasia. You know, so what difference does it make?
So what year was he?
John Dewey was in the early 1900s. You know what? Let's see.
He was around Joseph Smith's time.
John Dewey? No, that was Horace Mann.
Oh.
John Dewey was in the early
He was
early
born
19.
in
Oh,
1859, died 1952.
Okay.
1859.
John Dewey was born in 1859. Okay.
Died
So by the time
1952.
he reached, you know, the latter part of the 1800s, early 1900s, when he kicked in and did his damage.
Educated at Johns Hopkins.
Yeah.
That should tell you something.
So he applied the philosophies of the Humanist Manifesto in his system of public education. So right there, you're going, whoa, you know, that's just full communism, and that's introduced into the schools. And the thing that kills me is they let this happen. The people let this happen. Were they so asleep? I don't know. So he believed that the humanism was a religion and that the teachers were the prophets. And I think they believe that still today. Teachers are, you know, they are, you walk into the classroom and it's the teacher and you got to listen to that teacher and she holds it all. And they emphasize social unification as the goal of the public schools in order to promote state consciousness. So John Dewey himself admitted his atheistic beliefs when he declared. Somebody want to read that? Number 6? Okay.
Okay. Faith in the prayer-hearing God is an unproved and outmoded faith. There is no God and there is no soul. Hence, there are no needs for the props of traditional religion. With dogma and creed excluded, the immutable truth is also dead and buried. There is no room for fixed natural law or moral absolutes.
And see, right there, that is our constitutional principles. And so, if you tell the people this, it erodes away all of that. So you can see what an antichrist this is.
But what puzzles me is that people, if I hear that, I'm thinking, and so who made you God? Who made you the head person that your thoughts are the right thoughts, you know?
Well, I think part of the problem is, I don't know if he had his doctorate degree. Did you look at it, Marilyn? Did he have his doctorate degree?
No.
He may have had this high education, and so people look at him, they go, oh, incredibly, he wants to do the Dewey Decimal System, and he wants,
He's smart,
he's very incredibly smart, and so people suck into that. They buy into that, and they think this is someone we should listen to. And again, I think the people were so far away now from the traditional constitutional principles and taking morality out that they just ignored it. They ignored it. And so, it's a shame. I kind of feel like shame on you, but then I didn't do these things because I didn't know them. Had I known this stuff, I would have raised my family so much different. And so God will judge us by what we knew and by what we're taught and so forth. But we can put a stop to this and this homeschool, or put them in schools that are American heritage or, I know it's kind of pricey, but there are online classes with American heritage and places like that you could teach your children and get away from this garbage. It's just garbage.
Plus, I guess with science coming up, science is a new thing, and that's smart, and they're using real science. So if they're talking about educational science or whatever, that must be right.
I know.
But science can't.
But
a woman.
Yes.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
right. I know
Oh,
this
yeah.
morning. But what is a woman? No, my husband was watching
progressed that.
Fox and Friends this morning, and they had a lady on there, and they were talking about this Supreme Court lady, and they were saying the Democrats are the party of science, and they said, okay, but how can you not define what a woman is? I mean, that's so you're not. It's political science.
Yeah.
That's what
But
it is.
even with that, how do we stand up against that when our representatives are accepting?
That's the
It's
problem.
like we vote for people and then they shift.
That's the problem.
I know.
It's Mitt Romney got elected because of who his name was. People recognized his name.
and he said he was Republican.
Yeah.
So, oh, okay, he must be good. But
And
he doesn't represent the people.
but they don't look at the background and history of him in Massachusetts and how most of his policies and his leanings were more Democratic than they were Republican. So, yeah. So we go by name recognition
And
and
that seems like a moral issue.
well,
He
absolutely.
totally should have morally stood up for that.
Yeah, I agree. And Sarah Palin now is going to run for Congress. And Dan Bongino was saying, she'll probably most likely win because people know her name. It's name recognition. It's not what they do and but Trump has endorsed her, so, she is more constitutionally grounded than Lisa Murkowski.
The irony, I think, of Mitt Romney is you have Pam Romney Openshaw, his cousin,
Yeah.
and they are on completely
Oh,
opposite
different.
poles. Yeah.
Different 180 degrees
Spectrum,
apart. Yeah, absolutely. Horace Mann's ideas were in place. John Dewey, believing in the messianic character of education, took Horace Mann's philosophies one step further, and he organized it into the educational delivery system. And as we know, he created the Dewey Decimal. And in an effort to modernize education, he encouraged the abandonment of the one-room schoolhouse. This was one of the most damaging things that
So
happened.
this is Dewey?
John Dewey.
Mm.
Yep. He promoted the progressive idea of dividing students into age groups. In addition, children in the same families were sent to different locations to attend school, and this had the effect of isolating family members from each other. This was one of the most damaging things there was, because you get a schoolhouse, and you got a 5-year-old and someone's picking on her, and her 14-year-old brother is in, at the back of the room. He's going to come over and say, knock it off, So what it did is it separated the family and created peer pressure, and so he did a lot of damage that way. And he also incorporated his own philosophies that had developed over many years. In 1916, John Dewey published his book, Democracy in Education, in which he advocated an entirely new revolutionary approach to child training. The American schools have never been the same since. So he really was, they're both bad guys. But he was really bad. And he called his brainchild the progressive education. And even liberal educators, Robert Hutchins, called this whole concept regressive education. And I'm going, okay, if you know this is regressive, why aren't you standing up and saying, we're getting together and we're going to stop you? Why didn't they do that? It's just, it's all part of the plan.
Maybe it was because if it's so slow, they think, oh, it'll.
And that could be. It'll die down.
Yeah.
But again, I told you, progressives are methodical, slow, baby steps. But once you incorporate those, you've got this web. And how do you untangle all these tentacles off that web now? It's dang near impossible. And that's why what Obama did with Obamacare, excuse me, it had so many entanglements. The web was so massive, to try to shut it down would do so much damage, it would literally collapse. Because he took student loan servicing money, that would collapse them. And guess what? UKIA in Salt Lake City has collapsed. The student loan servicing company has collapsed. Yep.
Well, yesterday, he and Obama signed, and Obama sat with him, and he executively ordered that to be put into place again. And they had a great big celebration yesterday.
Obama sit with,
really?
Who did he sit with? Obama sit
I
with?
missed that one.
Obama was there, he was there.
Who's he?
Who's he?
Biden.
Oh, Biden. Okay.
And they sat and signed that executive order to
For
re-place Obamacare. But it was confusing because he talked about the hundreds of thousands of people that would give free insurance to, and you could tell it was an election thing to get, because his popularity is going down.
Oh, it's down. It's really low.
But he did it the very same day that the New World Order met, and Ukraine and Russia were discussing. It's kind of interesting because he keeps trying to distract you from.
Oh, that's exactly what they do.
Some of the craziness.
Don't let the left hand, look over here while they're doing this,
But
It's a distraction.
He
Yeah.
said free health care for everyone.
And all that does is will collapse the society. Well, if that's true, then I don't want to make my Medicare payments anymore. Because I just started a year ago, so. Oh. Well, it really infuriates me every time I hear democracy, because we are a democratic republic. We're a republic.
A constitutional republic.
Yes. And that is by design. They've changed the language so that you will accept a democracy. A democracy is socialism.
It's
And
also
it is,
impossible to have one unless every person votes on every single issue,
yeah,
which is impossible. That's why we have representatives.
right. So, but it just, even, the thing that bothers me even more is people who should know. Tucker and some of these people, they still say democracy, and I want to tell them, stop saying it. Call it our republic. That's what to the republic for which it stands. We are a republic. And it drives me crazy. So,
What is the difference between those two words?
democracy means that the people, all the people vote.
Majority rules.
Majority rules.
Okay.
In ours, we have representatives.
Oh.
That's exactly what your husband is doing right now. They're going to pick our representatives, put them on the ballot. The people will vote for them, but they don't get to vote who's going to be the primary. It's our representatives.
Okay.
It all had to do with balance
Chosen.
of power, so that that's why we have 2 senators for every state, so that the smaller states or the less populous.
Have equal voice.
Yes, that there's a balance of the powers, and that's why we have 3 government type. I mean, the judicial, executive, and
Yes,
legislative.
exactly. So that's a representative government. It's not just, Hugo Chavez is running, everybody goes in and votes for Hugo or whoever ran against him, over there in Venezuela. That is a democracy. People get put on the ballot, and they may have ran for, but it's just majority rules. And in this case, it is not majority rules. It's whoever is put in as a representative. Now, a lot of the states don't have the caucuses like we do. It has diminished, and they hold primaries. So, but I think of what this last election, on the local, this ranked choice voting, and you're not even getting the majority rules on a primary on ranked choice voting, and that's something that needs to be dealt with and done away with because it's evil. So the people don't get their voice.
I was surprised because when I went to the caucus, they were all saying, "Oh, I didn't know we had ranked choice voting in Highland, And when it came out, I said, "Well, that's not good." And everybody said, "This is great. No, we want ranked choice voting." I said, "You don't necessarily even get to vote, really, if you do
No,
that."
no.
I think it's lack of education.
It's lack of
Yeah.
education. It's indoctrination.
Yeah. In our caucus, to vote, they're like, the mayor of Vineyard was there, and she goes, "Let's do this let's just rank them." And someone said no, and we voted, and everybody voted against her.
Well, somebody's
So I was
over
like,
there
"Thank
now. Yeah.
That's scary.
They're like, "Nope, we just
Was
wanna
she a
vote."
delegate? Is the mayor? Are they there?
No, she just came to the caucus as the
And she
mayor.
probably wanted to come and put her voice in there.
But she's like, "Yeah, let's do this," by ranked choice. And,
Yeah, I know they
and
do it.
Everyone there was like, "No way."
No.
And I was glad that she got that message that no one in that room wanted to vote, for the delegates that way.
Yeah.
Were they older though? Wasn't an older group? Because I noticed the young
It was
people
it was mixed.
seemed to be more.
I was
Well, they don't
older and they were
understand.
voting that with gall.
Oh my God.
If they actually, when Chris Kimball showed us that video on how that worked, I think they would probably look at it and go, "Oh,
Yeah.
that doesn't make sense." Because if I voted for that person, I want my vote to go to that person, and it won't necessarily go to that person.
Yes.
So,
So with ranked choice voting, what we did was we only voted for one, we didn't rank.
that's what I did. But somebody told me that that doesn't work.
Yeah, it somehow
And the
gets
vote has to
alleviated
count.
Yeah.
when they have the other ones come in somehow. I can't
You
remember.
just don't get your vote counted no matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
To me, it seemed like I went in and put the same name over and over. If I remember right, I don't remember now. And I'm like, this is so stupid that Lehigh adopted this. I'm so just. Ugh.
Like 20 cities adopted it. Because after,
Well, Springfield did.
Oh,
Lehigh.
well,
There
in
were just
Utah,
two.
Murray was the only one that didn't. And all the cities around us did. There was 20 cities on the list.
Really? Wow.
I don't think they
Yay,
knew.
Murray. I graduated from Murray.
But
Murray.
Murray's trying to. So it's interesting. It's like you said, you gotta get involved because the counties are flipping things like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
fast.
Crazy, isn't it? I don't know. And how do you explain it to these people? And most of the people don't care. And that's the problem, is they don't even care.
Yeah.
So, letter E, democracy in education turned out to be a planned pattern of anarchy. There you go. In education, something called self-realization became the goal instead of learning. Nothing but the most casual reference was made to English, grammar, ancient history, U.S. history, geography, the classics of Western civilization, or even basic sciences. School was to just be fun, with each student doing his own thing in a climate of permissive, unstructured confusion. It's crazy. And contemporary educators of national stature treated Dewey with respectful demeanor, but expressed professional horror. And again there, I'm just like, well then, how on earth is this man becoming in charge and setting up these methods, and it's being accepted, and it is destroying the educational system. How is this happening? And again, I guess if you do it just a little bit, line upon line, you know, it can go good or bad. So, I don't know.
You know something,
Yeah.
interest, sorry. I keep
No, you're fine. I love this.
But there was, yesterday about the abortions that are going on.
Mm-hmm.
You think of the 60s, our parents were there, and, you know, we heard, well, I was a child, and so they passed the Wade, you know, versus what you,
Roe v.
Yeah.
Wade, yeah.
and then yesterday I got a text that said 13 states today, they wanted you to donate money to the ACLJ because 13 states are paying or voting for abortion after 30 days of birth. And I thought, see, people just don't even,
Infanticide, yeah.
but we don't even know that's going on. How would I have known that was going on? Nobody knows all this atrocities are being voted on.
They've been doing that in England for some time.
It's
They
serious.
throw the baby in a sink and let him sit, and let him die. Yeah. And up to 30 days after, they can go ahead and, I don't know if they would do like, do you remember the guy in Philadelphia that the baby would come out and he just snipped the back of the spine, and he went to jail?
Right.
Was shocking. He went to jail. Nowadays, today, I don't think they'd even throw him in jail anymore. I can see his face and I can't think of his name, but yeah, that's called infanticide, and it's disgusting, and it should not be practiced. But I know they were doing some of that over in England. I don't know. I just remember Glenn Beck talking about it, and so I don't know. It's
What's
disgusting.
interesting is, years ago, how many of you, your parents left you in the car so mom could go in grocery shopping and not have all the little rugrats crawling all over the place, you know? Nobody wanted your kid. You know, they didn't worry about their kids getting kidnapped out of the car.
Oh,
But
yeah.
now we're aborting children, where people aren't having children. The children that are being taken are being, you know, sexually, trafficked. What's the difference here? Is it because we don't teach values? Because we've got rid of church? It has to be. Because, I mean, people had children, and the Catholics didn't have birth control. They still have fish on Fridays, you know. and people just had babies, you know, and I guess they took care of them the best they could, you know.
Yeah.
But now we don't value children.
No, they don't value them at all. And I think it's on the next page, there's a couple of pages, you know, that the black community, I think they said that it's in the high 70% of black women abort their children. Because they're unmarried women. And
Oh, it was when Dinesh D'Souza came out with one of his movies.
mm-hmm.
I can't remember the name of it now. But he had all these black people acting in it, and they became aware. So it's really the Democrats that have been pulling us down.
Oh, yeah.
And they've changed their whole outlook on it. So they've been kind of smocking.
And PragerU, have you ever watched any of his little Prager, Dennis Prager? And there was one that was great that showed all the principles of the Democratic Party is what they've been blaming on Republicans, you know, with the black community and so forth. They're the prejudiced ones, not the Republicans.
Yeah.
And most Democrats they never see that. But I think Candace Owens, wasn't she one that finally had an eye-opening to that? And I don't know if it was PragerU or whatnot. I know she's recorded for him. But when you finally really learn the history, it changes your whole concept and ideology because of this next thing. Dewey looked upon the schools as a wonderful opportunity to indoctrinate the American youth, letter H, in the virtues of glorious age where private property, the free market, open competition, and profits were all to be eliminated. Stalin, you know, this is exactly what they want to do, is they want to indoctrinate the children. And he visited the Soviet Union in the late 1920s, and instead of recognizing the wasteland of revolutionary desolation and the widespread destruction of human values, he blissfully described it as a popular culture impregnated with aesthetic quality. So, you know, I love what they said last week. The men have this tunnel vision and the women can see out here. Obviously, he just had his mind set on the communistic ideas and didn't see what was around him. Yeah. Obviously. So the philosophies of Horace Mann and John Dewey became the center pillars of the new anti-God educational philosophy and system that would plague the country for another century. What is amazing, what an amazing contrast these ideas are compared to the Bible-based ideals that were part of the American beginnings. So implementing humanism in the classroom and society. So at first, the philosophies of Horace Mann and then John Dewey were resisted by Americans, and we talked about that. In World War II changed everything again because what happened is women came out of their homes and went to work because the husbands were off fighting. And it changed a lot of the mentality. It changed college students. They were against the wars and expanded more training for adult education programs because, if men were getting killed in the war, the women had to just go out and marry. They had to take over and be the provider. But anyway, it called for educational reform for the prep role of public schools, and it changed. When the Soviet Union beat America into the space launch of the Sputnik in 1957, the cause of reform took on ideal weight, producing an overnight clamor. More math, more science, back to basics. More advanced curriculum for all students. Help America catch the Russians. Well, did they beat us because they downgraded the education system? Very possible. And so the federal role in education began to mushroom. And then the 60s, with the broad context of social concerns, changes, civil rights, integrated schools, special education, opportunities for women, nutrition, latchkey kids, all of these things started to come about. And the Vietnam War, the teaching force changed, seeking a greater voice in the system. Students changed, having grown up in a television-dominated world. Okay, so this is now my generation. I was born in 1956, and so all that has been going on, I've seen in my life. So with these changes in society, many parents felt uneasy about the anti-family, anti-God focus that was beginning to permeate the educational system, eroding society everywhere. Yeah, they started to see it, but I don't think they did a whole lot to. They tried, the hippie society and stuff, they tried to shut it down, but the results of this experimental cycle became obvious. Not only was society plagued by the now infamous culture of this era, pockmarked by hippie lifestyles, flower children, drugs, jungle beat, ethereal drug music, acceptance of homosexuality, atheism, anti-religious movements, anti-prayer, draft-dodging attitudes, but almost by a radical decline in academic achievement and a high increase in school dropouts. So we really did see a big decline in what was going on, and this well, probably most of us here, except for you two. Oh, no, Debbie too.
I'm scoring 56.
Oh, were you? Oh, okay. So, I mean, I saw all this going on, and you didn't know any different. You just thought this was what the world was, but it wasn't. And unfortunately, our education system allowed this stuff to go on. But I remember Glenn Beck teaching us about, oh my gosh, the hippie guy that was helped part with the bombings, and then he went on to teach at Harvard. Do you remember his name?
The one that did
And he
the
was
bombs at
friends-
Hiroshima and stuff, that one?
No. He became friends with Obama and helped Obama get kicked off. He talked about, why can't I think of his name? I don't have it written down, but it popped into my mind. He was one of these big, he was part of that bombing. Do you remember there was a bombing where it killed some people?
In the
Underground.
Where was the bombing at? In the U.S.?
Was it the Kent
Oh, Kent State?
State or something? I can see his face, and he just recently retired. He and his wife, they never married, but was it Dorn? Something Dorn and Geraldine Dorn and but anyway, he held a meeting in his house, and Obama came there, and so we had a lot of these hippie people and disruptors, and they went into the academic field, and a lot of them did, and they indoctrinated our colleges, and our colleges really were a bad place. But we've seen in the last 15 to 20 years that now they've set their sights on not only high school, but junior highs and elementary. And for a long time, it was just the colleges. And people were very concerned about the colleges. Well, look what we've seen with Common Core and the damages of Common Core. And so my kids grew up in this. I didn't know any different. And I look at my children now, and most of them they have the mentality of the Democratic Party. And they're into the social concepts of things, not the grounded principles. And I raised them in the church, and then they turn 18 and they walk away, and I'm just like, I don't understand. I just don't understand it. But this was all by design to destroy. This destroys families. It really does. And that was the big worry: is we need to have family home evening to keep families together. We had family home evening. And we read scriptures. And so I'm just like, okay, God, there was a millennium, bring them back, because I tried to do what I could. And society has denigrated my efforts to teach my children to be a good and moral society. And it's frustrating because there's not a whole lot we can do about it, because there's outside influences that are against us, and that's Satan. By 1983, 5 independent studies by leading educators across the country began calling for a return to basics. It's still, even by 1983, there's so much damage that's been done. And the findings of the commission included serious signals. Now, some of these are outdated, but 32 million adults are functionally illiterate by the simplest tests of everyday reading, writing, and comprehension.
That was in 2013, 32
Yeah.
million in 2013.
Yeah. And see, I have 23 million from back in 2008 when I did it. And it could be higher now.
When was it 23 million? 2000 and what?
2008.
Oh, okay.
And so I think it's 32 million, but if we're bringing in millions of people over the border, I'm sure that the literacy rate is not very good. So it's going to go down even more.
Plus, we've done to all of our kids now. They don't even have to read to graduate.
And you think about it, in the 1700s, we had a literacy rate of 98.2%. And here we are now with 32 million Americans. That's 14% that are literate. Illiterate.
Illiterate, yeah.
14% 14%, and it's probably a little higher, that are illiterate. So those numbers have dropped substantially. And it's frightening. And 13% of all 17-year-olds in the United States can be considered functionally illiterate. Now, that I filled in back in 2008, 2009, right around there. And average achievement of high school students on most standardized tests is now lower than when Sputnik was launched in 1957. And between 1975 and 1980, remedial mathematics courses in public four-year colleges increased 72%. That's frightening. That now is a quarter of all mathematics courses taught. Again, this was back in 2009. I'm sure it's higher now. That by the time they reach college, they need remedial math. So, it's pretty scary. And business and military leaders complain that they are required to spend millions of dollars on costly remedial education and training programs just to get them on reading, writing, and computation for the Department of the Navy. So they get there and they have to educate them because they're probably not even remotely qualified to fly a jet plane or to, navigate a ship or just the basics. So it's pretty sad. And then it was found that dropouts from the educational system between 9th and 12th grades ran 20 to 45%. That was in 2008. So I don't even know what it is now. And the United States Supreme Court eliminated prayer and Bible reading from the public schools for reasons which would have been completely incomprehensible by the Founding Fathers. And the teaching of spiritual values and morality were eliminated from the responsibility of the schools, contrary to the express policies of the Founding Fathers in the Northwest Ordinance. The Northwest Ordinance was when they were going to set up new states, that they had to teach them morality and not a specialized religion, but they needed to be taught religion and morality, the golden rule. These were things that were supposed to be done. And, as we know, it's gone downhill.
When I graduated from BYU, it was in '77, and I had an elementary special ed degree. And I had to take a class on how to teach values in the classroom. I just got rid of that book for the last few months because by the time and after I finished school, I went on a mission. By the time I got back and taught, we didn't teach that anymore. So it's just a matter of a few years.
Perfect segue. Because these taught the moral values, the McGuffey readers. So, at the time, in these readers, 25 pages, the following emphasized a moral lesson. In 1810, 16 pages, in the same 25 pages, were taught moral values. 1830, 16.75, so it actually went up. By 1850, only 12.42 pages were taught moral values. By 1870, 6 pages. 1890, 4.19 pages. By 1910, 4.5 pages. 1930, 1 page. And by 1950, 0.06 pages were taught any kind of moral values. That's how far it has gone down in 60 years. So, well, and I mean, they're having kids read books that are in school now that are
You're not going to say those words that are in those books. Yeah.
Parents come to the school board meetings and go, wait a minute, and they throw the parents out. So, from American history, and let's see, additional monumental changes followed the launch of Sputnik. From American history to civics, and then to social studies. We talked about that. And then American education went from the top of the world to the bottom in the industrious nations. Isn't this disgusting? That our parents and our grandparents allowed this to happen? I don't know. The Constitution began to be called outdated. Obama called it a charter of negative liberties. I remember when he said it, and so did the Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, called it a Charter of Negative Liberties. And that's despicable. And they began, both state and federal authorities began to ignore many of its provisions, and then volumes began to be written about the Founding Fathers and leveled serious charges. You remember that. When Bill Clinton was running for office and all the women that came forward. So what did they do? They had to put an attack on Thomas Jefferson and said that he slept with all Sally Hemings and had all these black babies. They have to attack the Founding Fathers to justify these were bad people too. You know, we're not that bad. They were bad. And the power base of government was shifted from strong local government to an increasing powerful federal government. And I remember looking it up once. This was probably 6 or 7 years ago. And at that time, there was over 3 million employees of the federal government. I'm sure it's higher now. That's the state of Utah. We have over 3 million people now. The entire state of Utah could be, that many people working for the federal government. That is not what the Founding Fathers wanted. They wanted it kept at a local basis and a small amount to run the federal government. The federal government was to protect our borders, and then you're supposed to take care of yourselves in your own states. There was a shift from free market economy to a highly regulated economy. We talked about that. Trump came in and deregulated a lot, but the nation went from very low taxes to extremely high taxes. And then we talked about the Monroe Doctrine, how it was not supposed to meddle on other countries, and we are so ingrained. And the United States went from virtually no national debt to the biggest national debt in history. And right now we're about $32 trillion in debt, and that is not including the unfunded liabilities. And what I mean by that, we're talking Social Security and Medicare, and that about 5 or 6 years ago was about 150 trillion in the hole. So it's probably closer to 200 trillion in the whole of the unfunded liabilities. That's not including the debt. Now you know why they're trying to do a new world order and go in and do a great reset. They want to just wipe the debt free. But you know what that would do to us? Oh my goodness. And then, we know that they got rid of the gold standard under FDR and the silver under Richard Nixon. So they're destroying our money. And the Supreme Court began issuing mandates and decrees of unlawfully amend the provisions of the Constitution. And the executive branch began issuing thousands of executive orders. And I remember looking it up, and I think FDR had something like 2,300 maybe it was more.
I heard 3,000.
It might have been 3,000 executive orders.
Oh, I have FDR 3522 executive orders.
Yeah, okay, yeah. See, I'm just trying to go off memory. It's been a number of years. I think Obama had like 1,600 or 1,800. Trump had a lot. But what he was trying to do was trying to undo the garbage. So, but even still, the presidents were not supposed to backdoor what the Congress's powers, and they've been doing that a long time now. And the nation was taken off the gold standard, which we talked about, and so the third cycle. So we talked about the second cycle. The third cycle we are in now. We are in the third cycle right now, and we don't know if we're going to survive what's going on. I mean, it's pretty scary. The progressives have a strong foothold in what's going on with us today. And again, it's like this massive web. If you envision a spider web, and a large spider web, and you look at all the intricacies and everything connected, and you start trying to pull that apart, it collapses. And so, how do you do that? How do you do that? I don't know.
I think only God can do it.
Yeah, that's why we're gonna have a second coming. Did you, I really loved conference. I thought it was really interesting how they kept talking about missionary, the boys serving missions. I love that. I was online looking at something and somebody said that they always say, we'll see you in 6 months, and they didn't say that.
Oh, I didn't know.
No one said, see you in 6 months. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
Maybe that's why they had the women's conference this time, so we'd have one before we went.
I don't know. I don't know if that was a sign or just didn't.
And why did they do the release and putting in the new?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
That's
know.
different.
I thought when they did that, I went, oh, Tammy's probably cheering right now. She does not like you, babe. Because she's big with the UN.
But they usually do it right at conference.
I
In
know.
August.
I don't
You know,
understand it either. Anybody have any insights on that?
Haven't read anything.
I don't know, maybe if they're right in the middle of something and they and they said, okay, but give us time to finish this because we're right in the middle of this.
Maybe.
So, do you remember when Helena gave us that class and on the food, and just hours before she had that black rock come forth? Now you're hearing about black rock all the time, and they're not only involved with just the food law. They are involved in so many things. They're involved with all this with Disney and what's going on with Disney and Fink. I think is the name of the guy that started BlackRock. His last name's Fink, and Dan Bongino was talking about him and how he's so involved with Twitter. And they're buying up, I don't know where they got all their money, but they're coming in and buying up so many things so that they can instill all this socialistic and control. He played a clip about how he said, yeah, well, we want to control what they say. We want to control what they do. We want to, it's all about he's got power and he wants the control. And it's actually quite frightful.
Well, isn't BlackRock buying up all this land and gates?
Oh, yeah.
So, in the United States.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I constantly, as a realtor, I get text messages and emails. Let me know if you have any listings. We have cash buyers. And I wonder where these cash buyers are coming from. If they're from this BlackRock.
They've made the prices go up so high. Because they'll pay way above to get what they want.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they will. And California, the coast, the West Coast, yeah, if they sell the little house there for $1 million, they can get stuff here a lot nicer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I watched that show Flip or Flop, and I watched it over the 10 years, and the pricing, and they're California, Southern Cal, and the pricing is just unreal. So something you could see them buy at $350 now is selling for $850, $900,000.
Yeah.
That's a huge. I mean, triple what they were. And it's just unreal.
But it destroys our people here because
Well, it does.
Yeah, we can't.
It does.
That.
Absolutely. And you can still go to the Midwest and get housing that's reasonable priced, but it's creeping up too. So the two coasts are it's coming in this way. And you think about New York and the apartments that they pay millions of dollars for that would be, hundreds of thousands here, and it's really, I'm seeing this movement, how it's moving in, and Utah is going up like crazy because of the West Coast,
So do you think we're going to be looking a lot at multiple dwelling, multiple family dwellings and stuff? Because when I had my knee done a year ago, the PT that came to my house asked if I had anybody in my basement, and well, I do. I have a son who's married.
Who did that?
The physical therapist. He
Oh,
came in
okay.
and he says, he's going to all these homes, you know, to do physical therapy, even up in the Heber Valley. And he says, almost all of them have children, married
I have
children
children.
living with them because they can't afford
Mhm.
housing out there. And I
Yeah.
says, that's true.
Yeah.
So that's one thing is, are we gonna end up multiple, family dwellings, you know?
They're trying, if you drive down I-15 and you look over where the tracks line is, and you look at the massive apartment buildings they have been building, they're trying to push the people into urban living here. And they know that if they can get you into an urban society, you'll become Democrat. And all the studies, you think about every state that is Democrat, it's the around colleges and the big cities, they are Democrat. And if they can push out this urban society out into what do we call the suburbs, out into and we can create it. They can flip it into Democrats.
Plus you're at their mercy because they can control the rent and stuff. And
Oh,
the
yeah.
rent is a mortgage payment, you know?
Oh, I know. I
We
know.
thought this was a housing bubble here in Utah until our friend who does all the hardware for Ivory Homes said, well, the state of affairs is this, that the economy's good in Utah, there's 40,000 a month looking for places, we can only build 10,000 a year. People still are having children here and upgrading, and they want this kind of environment for their families, and so they're moving from outer areas.
Yeah.
Here, so it doesn't look like it's going to be a housing bubble because of that for a while.
Plus, you think about where are they putting all these illegal aliens that are moving in?
You know, in Murray, I've been going to the city council meeting, and we'll have people show up, and within probably less than, 8 blocks from like where I live, they have voted to put in 1,000 apartments, 1,000 apartments, 1,000 apartments. And we're just like, well, where's all this traffic gonna go?
Yeah,
They don't listen to the people.
they don't.
They give the person building, they'll give them an hour to speak, and the people get 2 minutes, and right at 2 minutes, they shut them up. And then they say, they never respond to the people, never. But they talk back to the builders.
Oh, yeah.
They even
The
gave,
builders are running it.
they gave bones at one of the meetings. I just thought, we just elected a new mayor, and he was the deciding vote. And he voted for it, and afterwards the guy walked over and gave him bones. I was just so mad.
Bones?
Bones. You know, hey, good job.
Oh, okay.
You can just see what's happening to our cities.
Yeah.
But they're not even looking at the infrastructure either.
Oh, no.
No.
They're getting payoffs, sorry, they are.
And who's funding that? I mean, is the government giving money behind that? You know, there's something going on.
Well, see, Family Search was gonna do 2 buildings, and our neighborhood pitched a fit, even though it was the church, because the traffic was gonna be, I think there's 400 jobs, no. Anyway, there was gonna end up being like 800 cars, that we already have a horrible time here with traffic as it is, and we pitched a fit. They were gonna put our building on the other side of the tracks. We're going, this is stupid. So they went ahead, we fought it, and was able to get our building. So instead of having 2 Family Search buildings, we got 1. But they want to cut across the golf course, the main road over here, and take it all the way out to Redwood Road. My neighborhood's pitching a fit. I'm like, it'll alleviate the traffic. I don't care about the golf course. I'm not a golfer anyway. And that's a horrible thing to say, but they're just, and I'm worried they're gonna take out the golf course here and put in high-rise housing right here in my backyard.
Well, so ours is happening, I don't know if you know where Costco is off of 53rd. Well, right across the street from the hospital, the gentleman came in, and he is going to tear out Best Buy and that whole complex to put in almost 500 apartments.
And it's probably close to tracks, right?
Let me tell you what he's doing. So he's down here in Lehigh, and he brings it up. Oh, I just bought 90 acres, and I'm putting in high prices, and they supported me. And don't you guys live in Lehigh right here?
Yeah, yeah.
And they said, oh, Lehigh is very supportive.
Yeah,
And I thought the traffic in Lehigh is crazy.
it's horrible.
But see what he said at ours is that you are supporting it because it's modernization. It's just so,
I
you
know,
guys should go to all your meetings.
I know.
This crap's happening.
Kind of like when those salesmen come to your door and say,
Hey,
oh, the Andersons are getting my product. Now, would you be Anderson?
Yeah.
I don't care what the Andersons do, but I'm not taking. And don't you see the no soliciting sign? I'm sorry, you can't read.
Our neighborhood has them, as you pull in, you probably notice the no soliciting, you know, so I put it in my ring device, and if I look at it and I don't know the person, I don't answer the door. Keep my front door locked, and they're not supposed to solicit in here, but still, it's very frustrating. Yeah, no, the builders are all buddy-buddy with the city councils and the mayor and stuff. And they know it brings in taxes for the city. And so they look at it and they go, oh, this is great, you know? So, anyway. Well, I'm done a little early, but we got the gist of it. I mean, oh, I forgot to show this too. You know, this is called the Catechism on the United States Constitution. And I bought this through Dr. Kimber, but you could probably buy it from Moms for America. It's 332 questions on the basic answers about our Constitution. And if you want to really feel stupid, open it up and start reading it, and you'll just go, I don't know this stuff. I don't know this at all. And I've studied it, and I still don't know it. So, but they were the young people were proficient in understanding our Constitution, and we are not, because we have not been taught it. So it's kind of sad. It's really sad. But, yeah.
Where did you
Sorry.
get it? From
I got it from Dr. Kimber, but you can buy it on Moms for America. So,
Does
but
it tell the answers?
it has the answers there. Yeah. But these 332 questions, you just kind of go, oh boy, I don't know this. You guys own it, don't
The
you?
United States. What was it?
The Catechism. She's got the book right there.
On the United States Constitution.
Yeah. And we've you know, it really made me angry to see that this went on right in front of us with my parents, my grandparents, and they allowed this stuff to go on. But it's, you know, and we've allowed it
We're
too.
so bad.
It's like, you think of this giant snowball rolling down the hill, and how do you stop it?
We weren't trained to be vigilant
No.
from the beginning because we felt safe and there were
Yes.
no
We
jails
had
and,
good people.
and it was good people, and so we haven't been taught to be vigilant.
I don't think we understood.
I don't either, because I only had a half a year of civics in 7th grade. That's all I had.
I don't
And
remember
nobody-
civics.
I had civics.
I
In
did,
junior
I
high.
had Mr. Vendetti. But,
I never had.
but the thing is, I think I think it was by plan, they kind of blocked us out of things so that we were unaware, perhaps.
Well, I remember in elementary talking about George Washington and his wooden teeth and the cherry blossoms and
Yeah.
stuff like that, but I don't remember. I think I remember Revolutionary War, but you know, I was a little girl, and who cares about war? You know,
Yeah.
and so I don't remember studying it. And
Did you want to see that?
I don't know. I think it's the whole
Until
thing.
we feel the pressure, we're the fish and it was.
I get this.
I have water, I
Yeah,
have
I'm gonna
everything
have to
I
look at.
need,
Yeah.
So I know
we don't care until
it
there's.
wasn't here.
Yeah.
I'll start going.
And there's a book called Who Moved My Cheese? Have you ever
I've heard of that.
And you think life is just fine. There's your cheese, and then somebody moves it, and you go, oh, and you don't know how to survive. And I think Latter-day Saints, what you got? Helena sent a text out that they've closed the Linden Cannery.
All of the canneries.
They can't get food.
Oh, really?
Can't get food.
Oh, is that why?
I've been at Winco recently, and they still have a lot of beans and rice and.
And I
and
say, go
basic
get it
stuff.
if you got
And
it.
it's a good
Money.
price, it's better than the Alpine.
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
I was gonna get a bag of lentils, and it was $38 at Alpine, and I went to Winco, and it was 25.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's cheaper there.
They have big bags of basic supplies still. Or
You can also get bulk pasta
been at
there
least
for
a
a
week.
good price, because you can't get pasta a lot in some of the stores. The stores are closed shelves, so.
So, it's supposed to go up another 30% on food here in the next week or two. And, so if you got some extra cash, run out and buy some more stuff, you know.
I think we just didn't realize people were plotting against us. Like you're raising your family and
You
you
don't.
just think, oh, everybody's busy. and
Everybody's good.
got our
too.
best
I'm good,
interests.
so everybody else is good.
Yeah, and everyone looks out
And
for
when
our
you travel,
interests
don't
and
you run
didn't
into
realize,
people that seem so good? Most people
yeah,
seem so
and you're
good.
like, all these years people have been plotting against
But it's
us and
just-
But
putting
it's
these
not,
things in
it's just the
place.
majority, it's
It's like
Yes.
that 20%.
And so instead of raising a family, they're like, I'm taking people down, like,
Yeah.
Bill Ayers. Bill Ayers.
Oh, okay.
There's only about 8,000.
Took me a while to figure out.
Control everything.
Controllers,
Yeah.
people that have conspired to control and to indoctrinate and to change. There are people out there that's their goal. George Soros, you know, that's their goal. And we're all going along, la 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 la, soccer games and blah, you know, and trying to be good parents.
It's probably because we just were not educated, because Benson, I remember him speaking
Yeah.
all about this and the takeover that's going to be happening
Yeah.
and all that. He talked about it for years, but I was a kid. I didn't
I was
know,
a kid and I didn't
and
understand.
I don't even think that our parents saw it coming.
No.
I really
Yeah.
don't. It's not like they were at fault. They changed our education, and the parents didn't understand that either.
right.
I just think we were just oblivious to what
Plus,
was wrong.
plus it's like you said, that you think, how could people do this to other people?
Yeah,
It's
it doesn't
beyond
make
our
sense.
comprehension.
Take
Why
the
would you
time to
do
do
something
that.
to be that mean?
Yeah.
There are people that have no soul.
People still are asking that today with what we're seeing.
Well,
They're
Well,
saying,
and I do.
why would someone do that? Why do you believe that? Because why would anyone, why would George
I
Soros
think so.
do that?
Yeah.
Because people
What's his
think that we're all
motivation?
innately good.
Yes.
That's what we're being taught. We're innately good. And unless you see the signs and understand the signs,
And it almost
You're
seems overwhelming on what
What
can
do you do?
I know,
Yeah.
that's the problem.
Okay,
Like,
yeah,
yeah,
but it's
going
here.
to the city council meeting, you sit there and it's like,
Well, what can you do though? You hear
You
the
go
throwing and
and
you pass
see
it.
and you try and you do the rules, but the rules kind of don't apply to you.
Don't you think at this point, I mean, we
override you.
pray and we do the
Turn
best
it
we
over to
can,
Christ.
but it's going to be God that comes in and takes it over. Because
Yes.
there's no way. The tentacles are too
It's too big.
ingrained and all over the world.
Yes.
It's just
Remember
too
when we
big.
went to that county meeting and somebody kept saying, so then tell me, what can I do about this? And they just come up with, well, I don't know. No, what can I do? They couldn't answer you. And we've got people saying, what can I do? And then they try to skirt it and
Kathy and I went over to Provo to one of the meetings. They said if you have enough people there, we will look at the auditing.
oh,
the-
that's what was
the
auditing,
The
yeah.
vote.
And
And we went, and they didn't do a darn thing about it. And then they did it again just recently, and we didn't even go because why go? You sit
Yeah.
there and nothing happens. They had a
Except you see the corruption.
Yeah, well, you did
And
see
you
that.
go,
And
and you
there's,
come home upset.
and they can't answer your question. Well, you could do this, but that's not gonna do any good. Or you can do this, but that won't do any good, and that won't do any.
So what do we do?
Well, you know,
We pray.
so I live
Yes,
in
the prophet is telling us what to do, create peace in our
Read your
own
scriptures.
lives. And he told
Yeah.
us exactly how to do it.
Right.
That was
Well, I have to tell you this little story. So I kind of live by Cottonwood, and if you go about 72nd, you go up this street, there's Brightenheim. Do you guys know this?
Yeah.
And across the street's a church, and across the street is the police station. Well, I have a friend, she's in a wheelchair, and she drives a van. So she's driving by Cottonwood, and one of the kids shoots a pellet gun hits her back window and just completely shatters it out. She said, I thought it was a full-grown bullet.
You thought it was what?
She thought, this just happened like 2 weeks ago, and I guess there was, through that internet, what's it called?
True News?
No, the kids were on it.
Oh, TikTok.
They challenged kids to do exactly what,
Oh.
My brother got his eye shot out with a BB gun.
just
Oh my
recently.
goodness.
No.
No. Well, wow.
When he was 10, I was 16.
I bet that scared her. to
She
death.
said,
She thought
she
she
said,
was
I
gonna
just,
die.
she said, I just kept driving because she said, I thought it was being shot at like by lots of people.
Yeah.
And I drive that
Yeah, a
street all
pellet
the
gun
time.
is a whole bunch of
Oh,
bullets.
see, I didn't realize.
We had our van window shot out when we were driving, and usually I had a baby then, and I usually had the baby by that window. Thank goodness, I don't know why, but that night I had moved her somewhere else.
Okay.
But yeah, it was, the window was shot out. We've gone to look at Christmas lights.
Well, another thing that we're facing too is this progressivism, this social justice stuff is in the church, it's amongst the members.
Yes.
It is.
And they don't see anything wrong with it.
No.
And the BYU stuff is horrible.
Abominable, yeah.
Yeah.
If you didn't need to know more about that, you follow Quick.
I do.
Yeah, he knows all about it, so.
Oh, it's quick.
He has studied
CWIC.
It's a
He
Greg
has-
Mort
has-
Matson.
Oh,
And
Where do
they-
you find him, on YouTube?
It's YouTube.
YouTube.
It's called
Yeah.
CWIC, his
Are you
name's,
kidding?
and if you go back, he has studied the
that's
social justice and
critical.
CRT and all this for years. He knows what he's talking about. And he keeps bringing in these things on the BYU. He's showing how these professors
This is
and
what
what
you're
they are
looking
teaching.
for.
You will
Yeah.
see, but if you go back through some of his stuff and just go to where he started teaching about it, and it's opened my eyes to what it is.
Does he tell you anything you can do, or is it again just?
Well, he's
seeing
actually doing
the
some things. His newest one that just came out, he's met with some of the BYU people, and he's trying to teach people what this is. And it's just being awakened to it, because we don't know what it is really. We know it's a bad thing, but he's.
What is it?
CRT.
Oh, CRT,
Yeah.
okay.
They're trying to make it look good, but it really isn't good. But he tells you the words that to listen for. This
Yeah.
is
But he shows you how it's even infiltrated in the church, and they can't.
It's what?
It's going to be there.
Well, that's
Yes,
why
yeah.
Tammy was
Just
so
to be
upset with
educated.
Eubanks.
But
Because she was all part of the UN and stuff like that, and she said, you know, she's betraying us.
Just go back.
But we've got them all through the
Yes,
church.
I do.
Oh, we do.
Yeah, in our boards.
Yes.
We just.
Oh, we do.
know.
I
that
hear
this
people in my
stinks.
board
We
that
know
I
that
kind of
this is
just
bad.
avoid
We know
politics
it's
with them
bad.
because they're more
Yeah.
left.
I was gonna say though, like, what can you do? Like in Vineyard, a developer has 80 acres,
Joseph Moran.
and someone stood up against them, and they gathered signatures. And so it has to go, so that the people can re-vote on it, but he explained what they did,
It's just,
and they sent these big, huge flyers out in the mail to everybody, vote, don't sign the papers, the lots are this big, we're following the plan, but they're talking about half of those acres. So that was their way of, we're doing what we
Lying to
said.
the people.
Yes, but we're talking about 40 acres, and you don't know, we don't want you to know about
See,
what
let,
we're
don't
doing
see
with
what
the
the
other
left
40.
hand is doing.
Yes,
Yeah.
so they're telling the truth, but leaving out
Half of it.
well, that
So
it
it's
was
called
CRT.
deception.
Cynical
Yes.
nation.
Which is still
So I'm proud of
defined
him,
as
I mean,
lying.
he has to get 2,000 signatures, and everyone has to sign 3 different papers. I mean, they make you jump through hoops,
well, they,
but at least it's sending that message. I hope that we get to vote on it and go, no, we're calling you on it, so.
But even with this critical race theory, they kind of don't tell you that. You think it's all about race. It's not. It's about LGBTQ. It's about all these specialty things, you know. And so you think, well, no, that doesn't have anything to do with CRT. Yeah.
Yeah.
yesterday I was kind of
CRT.
just in a place, so I was watching a YouTube video on the UN, and I watched the first hour, it was Russia presenting, and I have to say, then the next hour was the Ukraine, and I thought, after I watched it, I thought, Russia, I don't know what your perception is, but boy, it shifted me.
You've got to be so careful because you don't know what's going on in
Well,
Russia with
Russia-
the Russians and the
Russia
Ukrainians.
got up they would talk about what's going on and about these, people that have come into Ukraine, and they have Nazi things all over their
Yes.
bodies.
They
Neo-Nazis.
They just moved that Nazi experiment to Ukraine after the war. And it's been going on for 70 years as a money laundering center for the global elites. And so, like, if you go to Eric Mutzos' channel on Rumble, he interviews a gal that goes over the history and she plays the video. It's not the best shot, but it, not the best filmmaking, but you hear her talk about some of the history and what's going on, and the guy just saying, save your crocodile tears because
she's
you
half
don't
Ukraine
know
and
our
half
history.
Russian.
The
So she's
tears
got-
are for
So,
the
for Russia, they're
innocent people that
Defending
don't
Russia,
know.
like we have so many bases all over the world with our military, and we've just been closing in on Russia and with the bioweapons stuff.
Yeah.
You know about that, but
Yes.
they can't get it out without, the media's totally been brainwashing us all these years.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how
So-
are they lying to us now still about what's
I mean,
going on?
they
don't
did
know
what George
what's
That's why I
Soros
say
did
I don't
happening
choose
over
with
there.
side ever.
BLM.
I feel sorry for the civilians that are
The
innocent.
innocent people
Yeah.
like
On
us
both
who have
sides.
no idea what's going on
Right.
around them.
And
Well, they
That's
paid the
good stuff,
Ukrainian Nazis to do exactly what
Yeah,
they've
they
done
did.
with BLM here.
Yeah.
They paid them off, and it was all manufactured revolution.
Yeah.
For years, they've done that.
Monroe Doctrine betrayed again, infiltrating in other countries where they have no business to be doing it.
And we
In the
have
name
no
of
idea what's
democracy,
going on
really
because
cloaked as
media
communism,
is-
socialism.
And are you seeing the right media, or are they showing you some media from another country, or,
Yeah.
some, I don't know. But there are innocent people, and there are
But the
people that are.
prophet just asked us to fast and pray, continue to fast and pray for the people there. On both sides.
On both
Mhm.
sides.
He didn't say in Ukraine, he said on both sides,
Yeah.
because their leaders are doing the wrong things. They're not living according to Christ's law, or he said
Well,
something.
do you remember, do you guys remember when World War II was going on? In World War II, remember when they halted gunfire on Christmas Eve, the Germans, and they sang, Silent Night, whatever they
was
sang.
that World
Silent
War II or
Night.
World War One? Or both?
It was two. Well, two did.
Yeah, but you know that you have Germans, and we do have members in Germany. We had members in East Germany or whatever then. But there are people, they have to fight for their country, like we have to fight
Yeah.
for our country. But I mean, you feel for them. But if you can see them as people, you know that okay, they're here doing what we have to do, and so it makes it easier, I think, to pray for them because. Not all of them agreed with what they were fighting for, but when you don't have a choice, you don't have a choice. And it's the survival of the fittest, we're trying to stay alive, keep our families alive.
So why are there so many temples being built?
Yeah.
I
What do
think
you
that's
think?
why the opposition is going crazy.
Are we gonna be using them
In the millennium.
In the,
Yeah, but even before, because we can't, we have a lot of people leaving the church. We cannot support all those temples unless we have, our people coming in. And things are gonna get so bad that they're going to look at our church if we will do what they told us to do in conference.
And are they
And have
putting
the
the
missionary
missionary work?
people coming into the church, because where is there safety out there? There is nothing out there.
And maybe the members need to have a place close by, like China.
Of course, that's my
We could,
speculation.
we couldn't go to the
Mom
Chinese
Featherstone said
temple,
it,
but the Chinese
that we
people
would run
can.
to the
So
temples.
maybe they're
Let's
trying to
talk
get it to the
about
people that are
us.
in those
But
countries that will be
maybe-
blocked.
maybe just like
to
you said.
maintain, we know that there's going to come a time when the remnant of Jacob, who are the Lamanites, yes, they will return, and they're going to join by the droves. It's even in the scriptures, so they're going to start joining.
And the Lamanite people are.
And the Lamanites will come out from the south.
Kimber talked
That's what I
about
mean.
that.
Yes.
They're the remnant of Jacob.
Yeah.
The remnant that the Book of Mormon talks about are the Lamanites.
Well,
They're the ones.
there's a belief that
They're
the lost 10
Manasseh.
tribes were taken from the earth, and that they will
Uh-huh.
return, and it will be millions, and I don't think they have their temple
City of
work done.
Enoch.
No, they don't.
No.
They
I
got
feel like,
it.
and it says that they will save us from the bondage that we're in, and then I think we'll help them get
Isn't that
to their
Michael
temple.
Rudd? That is beautiful.
So I think, where we're building all these
That's
temples,
beautiful.
we will, how do you have the means to build them, maintain them, when you're losing people in the church, no, there's gotta be, and why are you
But
putting?
we're not losing that many, are we?
Well, we're still losing a lot.
Yeah, they do.
40% of your returned missionaries are leaving the church. I mean,
But
that's
even
not
at,
the
even
mission.
at that,
That's
how
just
do you
Utah Valley.
maintain with all these temples, and why are they putting in so many places? There's something.
Montpelier, Idaho,
I
that's
know.
like
I know.
2,000 people, like,
And look it up in Montana.
I
No,
like,
but
wow.
Austin, all that
There's
corridor
there's
there
something
is
that's
a
going
safe
on that
area.
we don't
Yeah,
understand.
doesn't the church
Yeah,
own a
because
lot
they
of
have
property and
Logan
they're
and
creating
Star Valley,
safe,
they're
they're
like within
storing
an
food
hour,
and
so I'm
putting.
just like,
So put it that.
cause I grew up 30 minutes from there, and I'm like, oh.
No, there's something, I just don't know, I can speculate all this stuff, but I don't, there's something going on.
Yeah.
To
I'm
put all these
I'm always
temples.
thinking, I think it's.
And
Lost
26
interest.
temples just
Yeah.
in Utah alone, when they have so
I
close.
was surprised there wasn't an announcement of
I
the
know.
Utah temple. I'm like, oh darn, oh well.
No more in Utah?
No, when President Nelson was called as the prophet, I just was given this visual that the first thing he did was go on a world tour, and I just felt like he was staking out the Lord's creation back and taking it back. And then, like with TJ's painting that shows all the points of light, in larger tents, and staking it out with the points of light. Somebody said, Mike Stroud actually put out a podcast.
I
just
heard it
recently,
yesterday, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, the one thing that people would unite with was seeing the destruction of the children, yeah. Hopefully, I mean, it's being
It's about the
uncovered,
children.
so.
It is all about the
Hopefully.
children, and that's what this whole thing is about, is to destroy the children so they can destroy the family.
But see, also you have these people, those who will not take up arms, needs flee to Zion. And who will not,
Yeah.
I don't know how it exactly goes, but there's gotta be people that will be coming to our Zion areas because they're not gonna fight any.
Yes, there's a last call
Yeah,
for them,
so-
for to come to
so
America,
I-
and it will be a protected
Yeah, so,
space.
I don't know, there's just so many things happening.
We'll never be able to guess how he's gonna do
I
it.
know,
but
I
it's
know.
I know, but no, but
magnificent.
it's just for me, so I know exactly what I'm
You
gonna
wanna
do.
know?
I mean, when the lost 10 tribes return, it's gonna rival the parting of the Red Sea. Like,
Yeah.
they're like, that's what you'll talk
And
about.
They said it'll be bigger.
Bigger.
Yeah,
Seek
bigger
and
than that.
expect miracles, seek and expect.
I know, and aren't you
Yes,
just like, I don't
I said
even.
to my husband yesterday, is that as clear as it sounds like to me? Because that sounds like, how can anybody misunderstand that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he said, ask for and expect miracles.
yeah.
Well, if you go to the YouTube channel, Latter-day Media, you'll see Kay Godfrey's whole thing about the Red Sea. That's really interesting.
About the what?
About
The Red Sea?
crossing
Oh,
and
Red
the,
Sea.
the archaeological points about the Red Sea and about the miracles
He's good.
and stuff like that.
I even like Farrell Pickering, some of his stuff, so I
Yeah.
I know, I go
It's great.
between Farrell and Talking Scriptures and Jared Halverson, and there's just so much to
I know.
I love
watch.
that guy that's 3 hours long. Did you ever
Jared
watch
Halverson?
That's
Oh my gosh,
unshaken.
I love
I have to watch
Isn't
his
he
in part.
amazing?
Yeah.
So long.
He was the advertisement that kept coming up during conference for me. He was like the next thing on YouTube right under conference was
He's so
unshaken.
And he did
He opens
a
your-
talk recently, a tri-state on contraries.
He did an
And
art
it's
state.
Proving
Yeah.
contraries.
It was
It
our
is
state.
brilliant. I
It
have
was
friends
brilliant.
that have listened to it over and over.
Yeah,
It's-
I
I've
listened to it
listened to
once.
it. You sent it to me.
Yes.
And I've listened to
It's
it.
re-
But he talks about it all the
so good.
time.
He
And
does.
it's like, what's her name that you used to have come that talks about the contraries, and she was teaching.
Karen
a lot-
Freer?
Yes, Karen Freer was teaching it way
Well-
back. She was teaching repentance and
R&R.
see
Yeah.
repentance
And remember
and
Rob
replace.
Kay, he has that tree of life and you have the two pillars and up this
And the
is,
one in the center.
that is the balance, and that's what contrary is, it's
Yes.
balancing.
It's the
So
balance.
that's what
and-
God does, he balances everything, and so
Yeah.
that's the perfect
And
thing.
my friend Rochelle Castor, you guys have had
Yeah.
her come talk, she says that Christ is the third answer. So when you look at both sides
Oh.
of the contrary, and Christ is the third answer, he's that one in the middle that we should be.
That's
The path, the straight and narrow
The
path,
tree of
not the
life.
one that's
He's the
going back
pillar.
and forth.
Yes.
'cause
Yeah.
this-
He's
He's
the-
the
he's the-
answer when
He's
you're
the
looking
balance,
at the
ultimate
contraries.
point. Yeah.
And
We're all
he-
tree huggers.
Yeah, I
So
like
I
that.
have a question about your set of books. You
Yeah.
said by the 1930s, it didn't even have any reference to, so is there any point in buying it and having it in our stock
Oh.
books that,
I think they're good. I mean, I don't have
if
that, I've
it's
got them
not
on my wish
referring to
list.
God and.
No,
Yeah,
these
they're on
do.
there.
These are from the 1800s.
I thought
I got a
those
spelling
that had
speller, but
changed.
I
No,
don't know.
these are the ones from the 1800s.
McGuffey readers?
I'm reading all those statistics.
That was,
I thought you were talking about.
no,
the change in
what
that.
we're saying is that they used to have 25, in a 25-page book.
Right. Those books.
Not these
I
books.
got a speller.
25, it shows you how it's diminished
Okay.
over the years.
I
Not
understood
his
that.
stuff,
I understood
know
that,
if
but
we
I
can
thought
see
you were
the
talking
spelling.
general
about
education, no.
Okay.
No,
Are they
his
really
stuff is,
expensive?
I
I
bet
$100 or something.
And they were, I found ones that like hers were, while she was talking.
For 40?
Yes, on eBay.
Okay.
I just one
Oh,
set.
eBay? Oh.
So if you ordered it, then I won't, because I was looking too.
And Tuttle Twins are good too. Tuttle Twins are good.
I think